these conspiracy theories are going absolutely viral on TikTok right now. If you're into conspiracy theories, we've always wondered the question, are there really lizard people in Hollywood? This is a very popular conspiracy theory, and there's some crazy evidence of this in the Epstein files, and also this clip allegedly telling a story of some child prodigy who was on the Ellen show and just saw something they shouldn't have.
I just saw a gentleman claim that he was on the Ellen DeGeneres show because he was a child prodigy chess player, and that just after he got off set, he looks to his right and sees Ellen's dressing room door open. It was open just enough that he can see her manually dislocating her jaw, embodying an entire Gelson's rotisserie chicken in one gulp. She then turned and looked at him and hissed. He sprinted all the way to his dressing room and tried to tell his mom, but she didn't believe him. And I'm pretty sure that's not the first time somebody has told a similar story about Ellen DeGeneres. And a lot of people in the comments are saying, are you sure that was a rotisserie chicken? Let me know what you think in the comments.
So honestly, I kind of thought this was a joke when I first saw it, but when I read the comments, there's a lot of people who believe this conspiracy theory, like that Ellen DeGeneres is some sort of shapeshifter or like evil being, I don't even know, robot, embodied an entire rotisserie chicken from Gelson's. I love the specification of Gelson's. But also other people are like, was it really a rotisserie chicken? I think indicating that it was maybe a child or something. I'm not quite sure here, but there are a lot of people who believe this conspiracy theory in general, and so this just adds on to it. So I wanted to do a little bit of research behind the claim because they said specifically they were a chess prodigy. The only chess player prodigy that Ellen had on her show was a girl named Harmony Zhu, and most of her appearance was more focused on her musical talents rather than her chess playing talents, but it was still mentioned. However, I think if this conspiracy theory were true at all, there would be no way in hell that kid's episode gets aired. Because if you have some kid who was actually on the Ellen show, verifiable, you watched them on the Ellen show come on TikTok and tell the story, you're gonna believe them because you remember seeing them on Ellen. But I think if this really happened and Ellen allegedly saw this kid seeing her and hissed at him, I think that that episode would be scrapped. I think it would be scrapped. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Is this all a joke? Like, I kind of don't really know. I thought it was until I read the comments and until I did a little research in the files about lizard people, and low-key, it's kind of nuts. So I specifically saw this TikToker talk about how this Epstein survivor, talk about how this JE survivor, Juliette Bryant, who actually didn't go public with her story until 2026 when the Department of Justice released the files without redacting her name. Let's remember the Department of Justice redacted the president's face in this picture. But either way, Juliette Bryant has come out and talked about her experience since then and claims that she remembers Jeffrey shapeshifting into something non-human.
As many of you know, certain e-files have come out that have revealed some pretty disturbing things about certain elites, and some of it is so bad that I think it's obvious that there's some demonic element to it. I'd go so far to say that some of these people may not actually be fully human. They may be hybrids or shape-shifting beings. And in support of this, consider this testimony from Juliette Bryant, who is a verified survivor of Epstein, where she talks about him turning into some kind of lizard or serpent.
I've seen anyone else turn into anything like that. And it happened. It was like a weird hologram, and it had like big black eyes.
You know, and I also saw Epstein shapeshift on the island. You know, when I was on the island, I saw Epstein like suddenly, and people have actually asked some pretty good questions recently. It wasn't like I saw him turning like the Incredible Hulk. What happened is, it was when I was taken in the bedroom the one time, and he had like a blanket up to here. And then I looked away and I looked at him, and suddenly it wasn't him anymore. It wasn't like I saw him turning. It was like it was him, and I looked away, and then when I looked back, it wasn't him. There was this weird creature. And then I looked away, and then I looked back, and it was him again.
So obviously that's concerning because this is a verified person we know is a Jeffrey survivor. So we know that this girl knew him. And the fact that she's saying this, I don't know why she would be lying. It just seems weird. It's very clear to me that she didn't want the publicity or whatever to begin with, because she didn't come out until her name was unredacted, released in the files for everyone to see. So I do think that it is a somewhat credible source, I would say. But I wanted to dig a little deeper deeper and look through Jeffrey's emails and see if I could find anything that were weird regarding to reptilians or lizards or shapeshifters. And honestly, there kind of was a couple of things that raised some red flags, okay? First is this redacted email on July 29th of 2013 saying, does Lawton need G to take care of the lizard? I mean, obviously, could it be a legitimate lizard? They lived on an island in the Caribbean? Yeah, but it's weird when you look at it. But these two cannot be explained away like that at all. A redacted person wrote on September 22nd of 2012 saying, just talked to my doc, had a biopsy, ultrasound, and surveillance CT yesterday. So bizarre, he called me on a Saturday. Not only has my left ovary grown back, it is producing follicles, and my SED rate is 0. I am a Highlander or a lizard. I've seen the ovaries and the tumors in jars and also the videos from surgery, so I know they are out. Maybe I'm not really human. What's up with that? Who is this from? And then finally on May 8th of 2018, Joshua Buck was writing to Jeffrey saying, quote, I think the whole game is internal. All our pleasure and pain are caused by satisfying or frustrating our needs, which are roughly speaking implemented into our reptilian brain. What do you mean by that? Like, they're talking about themselves here, so why is he referring to his brain as reptilian? What the hell is that? It's just weird because the rest of the email is so normal. Like, the terms of it are so normal, like talking about like hunger and thirst levels, physical pain, and just other things that have to do with like your brain and your body's like needs or whatever. So I just am not quite sure why he said reptilian brain. I think that it's obviously concerning phrasing considering all of the conspiracy theories. And honestly, if you've been watching me for a while, you know I was never the type to believe the reptile conspiracy theories. I've seen a lot of people talk about it. I kind of thought it was somewhat of a joke, but honestly, with everything that we know now, like, I don't know if I believe it, but I am thinking it is a lot more believable than I thought it was before, okay? Because having that survivor talk about that in the way and describe it the way she's describing it is definitely, I think, something that we should be looking into. So I don't know why people aren't, you know, talking about that more, because that was really quite interesting and scary. Another like part of this theory is the like whole celebrity eye twitching thing. Like there's been videos of like Justin Bieber like blinking and it made him get like reptile shapeshifter like accusations, I guess. But there is this celebrity eye twitching thing that a lot of celebrities do with the same eye, and I think it is very, very strange.
Holy shit, look at her eye. Oh my god.
One really creeps me out. I just don't like the way that looks. And I've heard other people be like, no, it's because they're wearing fake eyelashes. Bitch, I wear fake eyelashes every day of my life. And I have never like been able to do that with my eye. I don't know how they're doing it. And I find it to be relatively disturbing. I don't know if it means that they're reptilian shapeshifters or if they're clones. But that got me thinking, what did the files have to say about cloning? What was Jeffrey getting emails about in regards to human cloning? And honestly, too much that like I 100% now believe that the Hollywood elite, the Illuminati, the government, whatever you want to call it, the highest billionaires definitely have at least a significant more amount of research done with cloning / probably have successfully cloned people. Like, I genuinely believe it. Not even in a tinfoil hat way. It's just here. It's all here. So on April 19th of 2014, Richard Merkin wrote to Jeffrey saying, where are you? Any cloning updates? What the hell else would that mean? What does it mean? Then Jeffrey wrote to a redacted source saying, sorry you can't make it. Did the cloning issue give you pause? Again, like, what else could that be besides literal cloning? Like, what? I don't know. Then a redacted source sent this to Jeffrey while he was in jail in 2009 because it says like J.E. jail, which I find interesting. July 19th of 2009. And the person just wrote dog cloning as the subject and then a website to like Best Friends Again, which is the concept of a dog cloning website. I think this has been kind of a thing people have talked about for a while, that, you know, maybe we can clone our pets or whatever. And I'm just like, why the fuck would Jeffrey Jeffrey care about that in jail? Like, why is that such pertinent information to know? You gotta email him while he's behind bars. Like, I just feel like, hello? It's pretty obvious to me they know something we don't. Then George Church is somebody who comes up a lot in regards to cloning, and on November 20th of 2011, he wrote to Jeffrey saying, "Thank you for understanding. Probably rather than relaxing, I'll be spending my spare time in December raising funds for personal genomes.org, which includes adult human tissue cloning and genome engineering." So there's that. Then a redacted source says on August 5th, 2018, attached is a doc you requested. It's the quote, use of funds spreadsheet for the designer baby and human cloning company. Next steps, I'm happy to hop on another call, or I could take a trip to meet you in person. What the fuck is that? It's written out there in words. Jeffrey was obsessed with having designer babies and clearly also with cloning people. And did he find these technologies before he was arrested again? Maybe died? Has this already been done? Have clones already happened? And I honestly think the answer is yes, and I don't like it. Then on August 5th of 2018, Jeffrey was writing to someone named Brian Bishop, so I believe that was who he was writing to earlier that we just talked about. But he's saying again, attached is the doc you requested. It's the use of funds spreadsheet for the designer baby and human cloning company. This gets us out of our self-funded garage biology phase to the first live birth of a human designer baby and possibly a human clone within 5 years. Once we reach the first birth, everything changes and the world will never be the same again. Much less the future of the human species. Attached doc shows $1.7 million a year for up to 5 years plus $1 million for lab setup. And again, they're like talking out logistics, like this is clearly, like, I don't know. They're talking about cloning people. And hello, 2018 was more than 5 years ago, shockingly. Were they successful with or without Jeffrey? Like, I want to know. And I'm a little scared because Jeffrey's not the only billionaire who is probably interested in this. You know what I mean? Like, this must be something that has been researched and probably done, and I don't love it. I don't. On October 19th, 2012, Jeffrey wrote to Caroline Lang saying, could you speak with Sebastian? He might know of a clone. Then a redacted source wrote to Jeffrey on April 19th of 2013 saying, Todd was so funny. He said he wanted to clone himself and make a lots of little Todds different shapes and sizes, smiley face, which is just kind of weird because then they go into saying, and Nikki was sitting next to us with a young Rothschild. Todd said that if she doesn't close this deal, she will be selling makeup in Bloomingdale's. I believe that is referring to Nikki Hilton, who is married to James Rothschild, and they got married in 2015, so this is 2013. Like, why is this person writing things about clones and then also saying like true information about like Nikki Hilton and the Rothschild's kid? Weird. It does get you thinking, but the next theory I want to talk about has to actually do with Nikki Hilton Rothschild, and there is a pretty popular conspiracy theory going around that the movie Ready or Not is actually inspired by Nikki Hilton and James Rothschild's wedding, but it's like kind of a deeper message overall to what it is like to marry into an elite family. Now, Nikki Hilton probably didn't have this experience. She was already rich marrying into the family, but I do think that the nod towards like things like wedding dress in the movie looking exactly like Nikki Hilton's wedding dress, like stuff like that is clearly like, I feel like a nod to it. Nonetheless, essentially the synopsis of this movie, if you haven't seen it, is this like super rich billionaire family who, whenever someone in their family gets married, they basically have this like ceremonial mask ritual and they chase and hunt down the new spouse and kill them. And that's kind of the plot of the movie. Like, we see it happen before to one of the other family members. And then it actually follows the story of Alex and Grace's wedding. So again, so this happens when they're doing this tradition. If they pull a card that says hide and seek, that is when they have to play this game where they are literally hunting her down, and she pulls the hide and seek card, of course, and that's kind of the plot of the movie, is them trying to hunt her down and kill her. Now, I think this sounds a little familiar to something that we've talked about recently, which has to do also with the Rothschilds. Coincidental? I don't know. But we've talked about the concept of the Rothschilds being involved in hunting parties. And essentially there have been people who've spoken out, I guess, claiming that these elite circles of people would have these masked parties where when they were children, they would be let out of cages and chased by the elites. And if you got caught, you died. Like, I don't even know what the hell to say about this, but that also comes up in the files as well, because one of Jeffrey's survivors also said this was true and said that they remember these hunting parties on the island. And then when I looked in the emails, we found literally one of the most crazy emails with a Rothschild as well. So Redacted wrote to Jeffrey and Ariane de Rothschild saying, quote, "Got it, amazing old male and amazing hunt. My bankers should be careful, ... Jeffrey wrote, "Great photo." Obviously, we can't see the photo. And then Ariane de Rothschild wrote, "Thanks. Thrilling hunt, ... What the fuck are you talking about, girl? What are you talking about? I don't know. Like, is this a real thing? Like, this has been a conspiracy theory for so many years. Obviously, there have been countless amounts of questions regarding the Rothschilds, and people always think that there's like a way darker, you know, energy around them. And I don't think the storyline necessarily follows like Nikki Hilton's, because Nikki Hilton grew up rich. The girl in the movie did not. She grew up very poor. And so that's why it was so different to marry into this like incredibly rich billionaire family. So I don't think that it was like supposed to be exactly like Nikki Hilton's life. Like, obviously I don't think this happened to Nikki Hilton, but is it happening in these elite circles, these hunting parties where they hunt down victims? I mean, I don't know. Why is there so much fucking evidence of it and like stories behind it? It's weird and it's very, very dark and twisted, okay? All right, the next TikTok I want to talk about has to do with Antarctica. I think Antarctica is like a rabbit hole I have yet to fully dive down because it is so thorough and complex. And also the Rothschilds have like an island out there, by the way. They like, well, it's apparently not theirs, but it's named after them. I don't know. But this girl goes into detail talking about the ice wall, and I found it to be very interesting.
This is part 3 of craziest conspiracies. Let's get into it. We're gonna read more comments on that video and spill the tea. This person says, behind the ice wall, there is a whole different civilization studying us and watching us. I know I've talked about Antarctica so many times, but I'm gonna talk about it again for all the new followers. So, Antarctica, absolutely sus for every single freaking reason. So Admiral Byrd, he was a famous aviator in the early 1900s. He says he flew into a hole out the other end, hollow earth style, and saw lush green land, and he saw rainbow cities, just like an ancient civilization type thing. Came back, told the world. Admiral Byrd, I believe he unalived 10 years later. Right after that, 1958, NASA was created. In 1959, just a year afterwards, the Antarctic Treaty was signed. I think NASA was a shiny distraction to keep people from looking into Antarctic. The Antarctic Treaty. So basically that treaty is where all of the nations came together to agree on one thing, and that one thing was they are to be prohibited from self-exploration of certain parts of Antarctica, where they say it's just ice, right? Like if it's just ice, then what is the big deal? Obviously it is a freezing tundra, but why, out of all the things, nations cannot come together to end world hunger, they can't come together to end a freaking war, y'all can decide that we can't go to Antarctica? Call me a 5-year-old, but when you tell me I can't do something, I want to do it more. And the ice wall thing came into play because Admiral Byrd had an operation called Operation High Jump. And y'all know, I think everything they put in the TV has some kind of fact to it. Let's take into account Game of Thrones, winter is coming, the ice wall in Game of Thrones, and what was behind that freaking ice wall in Game of Thrones, okay? There's a whole theory about what in the world could be behind the ice wall. It could be Gog and Magog, which is an ancient Jewish text, and it's also in the Quran, I believe. In the Quran, they're called Yajuj and Majuj. Basically, it's a king and a group of different kinds of species. A lot of people think it's giants, and they are waiting in the mountains, some remote area that we don't know about. Some people think that they could be Gog and Magog. Some people think that the behemoth is behind the ice wall because of the Leviathan. A lot of us believe Leviathan is still at the bottom of the ocean, which is why they were randomly detonating bombs. Animals were beaching themselves. There were ocean fires, like absolutely insane things going on in the ocean. We know that sea gigantism exists, right? So if we think about how deep the ocean is, Leviathan really could be there. But where would the behemoth? That's the land creature. So where in the world would a colossal land creature hide? Maybe behind the ice wall, especially since it's lush green land. Oh my gosh, how did I only get to one? I got to one comment. Guys, I yap way too much.
So I find the concept of Antarctica to be a very interesting thing in general. I mean, I think that the fact that there is so much secrecy around it, and I agree the fact that the whole world, like every nation that can't agree on fucking anything, suddenly come together and are like, yes, no exploring Antarctica. Like, I just think it's suspicious, especially because I feel like, yes, obviously Antarctica could be dangerous if like civilians just went there and explored it. But at the end of the day, it's natural selection, babe. Like, why can't these people go explore if they want to? Like, I don't know. I just think that's kind of weird. I really want to hear guys' thoughts though, and if you want, we could definitely do a whole deep dive on Antarctica. I think it would be a good, like, separate own video. So let me know if you would want to see that. All right, the next TikTok I want to talk about is a girl who's claiming that her mom used to work at the Pentagon, and this is what she saw as a child.
Stranger Things, this, Montauk, that. Look, there's a fucking door in the basement of the Pentagon that I saw when I was younger. My mom snuck me down in that motherfucker when she worked there, okay? It was supposed to be quick. She was supposed to just run down there and grab something and go. We got caught. She got in trouble. Anyways, back to the door. The fucking door that I saw, it's never left my mind. For 20 plus years, I've wondered what the fuck was behind this door. Okay, so we're walking down the halls. This is in the basement. There's 2 basement levels. Okay, there's 2 lower levels. My mom worked in one of the lower levels. I'm not giving no fucking details. You got me fucked up. So we're down there, we're walking. All the doors have like writing, symbols, whether it's a code thing, a fingerprint, a fucking eyeball, whatever, you know, you gotta get into them through security somehow. You gotta scan some shit. This door specifically had buttons, so it was a code, and the symbol on it was the knight chess piece. I don't know what that means, but it sat with me. And it wasn't just like it was a familiar thing. It was just, for some reason, the horse and the knight chess piece, like, for what? What's in there, you know? And I've asked my mom, she says that she's not telling me nothing. She can never tell me nothing. They wouldn't have given her the fucking clearances if she was gonna be telling shit, you know what I mean, kind of thing. The one thing she does tell me is to not trust the people in charge. And I guess I'll share that with y'all.
So I don't like that. I want to know what the hell is behind that door. And also a lot of the comments on this video got me thinking, because I'm like, there obviously are other people who have family members that have worked for the CIA, the Pentagon, whatever. And they have some interesting stories. And obviously, like, I don't know if we think they're true or not. That's up for your discretion. But I mean, with everything we got going on, anything could happen, I would say. So someone commented saying, my grandfather worked for the CIA Secret Service, was a first sergeant in the army, and spent a lot of time at the Pentagon. I would beg him for a secret, and he would always tell me if you knew the truth, your entire perception of reality would change. Also not liking that. I think that if we found out some of the things that the government knows, that the Illuminati knows, whatever you want to call it, I think that we would genuinely crash the fuck out, because it's probably so much worse than you think it is, and we can't even conceptualize it in our heads. So I don't like that. Like, imagine all the things that we haven't thought of about the government that could be true. That's scary. And there's other people commenting, like someone wrote, my mother told me when I was a kid that a congressman said, quote, if the American people actually knew what was going on, they would not be able to sleep at night. I don't even know that I want to know, because clearly there's some very dark shit happening within the government, and I think that that has been confirmed by the files and confirmed by like everything that we've learned about Hollywood and the truth and all that shit. And I just think, once again, it is probably a lot worse than we can even imagine. So I want to hear guys' thoughts. What do you think is behind that door in the Pentagon? I want to know, do you think this girl's mom even knows, or is she even allowed to know what was behind the door? I got questions. Theory that there was this time viewing technology at one point where the US military developed a device that was capable of observing future possibilities or probability timelines, but not necessarily actually like seeing into the future or traveling to the future, but they could see if they were to do this, what the outcome would be. And this was something that like the elite people have. That is a conspiracy theory that has been going on for a long time. So I saw this girl's TikTok and I thought it was a really interesting concept, because I definitely agree.
What if I told you the world is the way it is because politicians can't see into the future anymore? Now that sounds crazy, but y'all know every now and then I like to tinfoil hat it up. So have a seat, let's chat. So I was hanging out with one of my friends and he was telling me like he's into the deep webs and down into the Reddit threads and all of that. And y'all know that's not me. I could possibly go find these things myself, so I haven't looked them up just yet, but I'm gonna tell you like he told me. Basically, the story goes, since the dawn of time, the oligarchs and the politicians and such were able to make the decisions they were making because they could see into the future. They could see the end result of those things. Now, of course, some things would change, you know, butterfly effect. Everything doesn't go exactly as planned, but for the most part, they could see what was going on. But for some reason, since 2016, that's gone dark. They haven't been able to see anything since 2016. And so essentially they're just throwing shit against the wall and seeing what sticks. Now, does that sound insane? It does. But over the last 10 years, there's a lot of conspiracy theories that sounded super crazy and turned out to be true. Or at least existed in the realm of some sort of truth. Like, yes, there actually is a evil baby eating cabal full of pedophiles. They just wasn't at the pizza shop. They was on Epstein's island. Now, it doesn't help that Trump then fired everybody who would have the experience to know how to do something. But what if they thought they were bigger than the program? Because those people were never able to see into the future anyway. That's not how they were actually making decisions. They were never actually relying on their experience to make those decisions. Those people just thought they were. And so my response was, okay, that's actually fine because the people are telling you exactly what they want. Like, we are telling you exactly how to achieve peace. We're telling you exactly what we want. And he said, well, yeah, but they don't know what the end result is going to be, and that's why they won't do it. Bitch, you don't fucking, bitch! Y'all pissing me off, for real. But ever since Trump came down the escalator, they ain't been able to see shit. And that's why they just doing bullshit. Now, I have not gone on a deep dive to find out more information. That's just the general overarching theme of everything he told me. But I don't know. I feel like all these theories and things kind of tie into each other. They, in one way or another, they intersect. And if some things are true, why can't that be true? I don't know, y'all. Let me know how y'all feel about this theory in the comments, but I'm just saying, something's off.
And I agree. I have always said I do think that elite people can, like, not even necessarily see into the future. And I think that this is, like, a bit nuanced, whether it's the future of the planet that we're on currently, or I also just think that they definitely have access to knowing what happens after we die. I just feel like without shadow of a doubt that is true, and they use it as a way to control us instead of, like, because I think if we were to find out that no religion exists and, like, nothing happens when you die and everyone goes to the same place, our society would collapse because there would be no real reason for people to be good people or want to be good people, like, without assuming that something bad would happen to them at some point for it, like karma or in the afterlife. I don't know. I think it's an interesting theory and I really want to hear your thoughts. All right, lastly, we got to talk about Ashton Kutcher because I think this theory is 100,000% allegedly true.
Okay, so here's my conspiracy theory about Ashton Kutcher since no one really asked. So back in 2009, Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore made this initiative called Thorn. And Thorn's basically a technology company because they made a facial recognition program that can scour the internet to look through videos of a certain nature to find children that might have been missing or being trafficked. And the goal is basically to find these children and help save them or rescue them from these situations where they're being exploited, right? And Ashton has testified in front of Congress that this technology, this facial recognition program, along with law enforcement, is helping to find and rescue these children. I also kind of think it's interesting that you never really see Demi Moore's name associated with Thorn. It's always Ashton Kutcher. And there have been a lot of articles about Thorn. There's also this viral tweet that makes people think that Thorn has done a little bit more work than they have actually. There have been around 5,700 people who have been identified with this technology, but only 130 people have actually been rescued using this technology, which is still a great number. 130 people that wouldn't have been rescued without it is great, but it's not close to 6,000 people who've been rescued. So let's just get that number right. But there's a lot of numbers that don't make sense when you're talking about Thorn, but I'll have to get into their financials later. This kind of article and viral tweet combination are a way to give Ashton Kutcher and Thorn a little bit more credit than they probably deserve, because now when you Google Ashton Kutcher, trafficking, abuse, anything that's related to that, Thorn is what comes up, not anything else. And I'm not saying that Ashton Kutcher has done anything, but I am saying that he surrounded himself for a long time with a bunch of people who are very questionable. Like, if he's so worried about trafficking, he could have looked a little closer to home, because he's got Danny Masterson by his side, who is facing 3 decades in prison because he was drugging and assaulting women. And then you have Wilmer Valderrama, who was openly dating multiple teenagers, like over and over and over again. And Ashton can't really say he didn't notice his friend coming to set with multiple teenagers that was actually getting spots on their TV show. Like, how do you ignore that this man was a grown man dating teenagers, like one after the other? I mean, Ashton had to notice that he couldn't go out for dinner and drinks with Wilmer and a date because they were all underage. And then Ashton starts his show Punked, where he punks or pranks multiple celebrities. And let me tell you, the episode where Jonah Hill and Justin Long buy drinks for underage girls does not hold up. And Ashton says there are some episodes that didn't air at all because he destroyed them because he was intimidated by the people he was pranking in those videos. Now, wouldn't it be pretty easy to blackmail someone if you had them on video breaking the law or presuming that they were breaking the law and you were the person who had control over those videos being destroyed or being seen by the entire world? I don't know. Now, when you lay all that out, doesn't it just make sense that Ashton Kutcher would associate himself with a company like Thorn, where he could change the SEO on what comes up when you look up his name and abuse or underage girls? Now, I'm not saying that I know of anything that Ashton Kutcher has done. I don't have evidence that he's done anything or any proof of anything. I'm just saying that I can't be the only person who has thought about this conspiracy theory.
Girl, you're honestly not. I've been thinking about this for such a long time, especially since the P. Diddy news released. But with Danny Masterson and Ashton and Mila Kunis's support of him has always been so sick and twisted to me. Who you surround yourself with, like, you are those people. You're believing those things. And I don't like that he was not only surrounding himself with these people, but publicly defending Danny Masterson, who has been now charged with harboring someone. Like, that's crazy, considering the type of business like Thorn that they have. I also find it very interesting that Ashton and P. Diddy had such a close relationship, that Ashton also used to date Brittany Murphy. That's a little sus in my opinion as well. And that Ashton Kutcher's ex-girlfriend died and he was like supposed to meet her that day. There's just a lot of weird things around him, but personally, I think when the killer is like too involved with the police investigation as true, like with his community trying to help find them, like find the killer, whatever, and they were the killer the whole time because they think that it made him look less suspicious to talk to the police like that and like be so involved with an investigation. I feel like that's the vibe I'm getting with Thorn, you know? Like, I do think it's weird that they have matched like 6,000 victims, but have saved 100 of them. Like, I don't know if these children could be saved or what, but like, I would like to know a little bit more. But I feel like we should know more about that. But I think the concept of Ashton having a company, specifically doing things that like he knew people around him were doing, that was specifically trying to stop people from doing things that he knew probably that people allegedly were around him doing, like P. Diddy. And he maybe created this entire company as kind of a ruse to, you know, look not so suspicious. And I don't know, it's all alleged, obviously. I think it's genuinely very disgusting that he defended Danny Masterson and I think is still friends with Wilmer. I want to know, do you think that that's the reason this company was created? Do you think there's nefarious causes behind it? I want to hear your thoughts. But anyway, that is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of these conspiracy theories and these TikToks. But that is it. Make sure you follow me on TikTok and Instagram and subscribe for new videos every week. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.